with the first chapter, and that takes us to the NFL and to college football, as a matter of fact. And we know that it's playoff time and the Lions aren't playing, and if they did play, obviously they wouldn't have won over the weekend. But everyone right now in Lions land is focusing on the search for a coach and a GM, and it seems like they're interviewing everybody for those jobs except for the two of us. And people are also focusing a little bit on who the Lions should pick at number 7, and considering they were dead last in the NFL in points allowed, dead last in yards allowed, and second to last in turnovers forced with only 12 for the season, you might say the obvious pick is a defensive player at number 7. But check out some new mock drafts. CBS Sports has the Lions taking Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons. So does a new mock draft from The Athletic. However, the top 3 wide receivers, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola, are all set to become free agents, and that might be why Pro Football Focus has the Lions taking Alabama wide receiver Jalen Waddle. A different CBS Sports mock draft has the Lions taking Waddle, and a Sporting News mock draft has the Lions taking Heisman Trophy winner DeVonta Smith, who set a college football playoff game or championship game record with 12 catches and over 200 yards, and did that all in the first half. Dennis, what do you think about the possibility of the Lions dusting off the old Matt Millen draft book and taking an Alabama wide receiver like DeVonta Smith at number 7?
Well, there's so many things going on there. You're right about the defense. I would put Jamar Chase in there from LSU in the mix as well. I see him popping up in a lot in the top 10, if not the top 5. So I think he's somebody that consider as well. If you're sitting back, man, and you got your draft board and you grade out DeVonta Smith and you think they're going to be better prospects than Kwity Paye and Micah Parsons, and you just have a better grade on them, you look at your team. It's one thing when you're a bad team like the Lions here, you just made the case that they could use a wide receiver. Heck, even if they brought back Kenny Golladay and you say they put DeVonta Smith over on the other side, give Stafford something to work with there, that could make you smile. And if he's a great player, you can see that working. Meanwhile, Justin Herbert last year was taken at number 6 for the Chargers, and you see just what kind of position that the LA Chargers are in right now. Thing is, there's a couple different quarterbacks that are sitting there. One that was in the championship game last night, and Justin Fields, he could be one. Like if you're sitting there and you feel like Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, or Trey Lance are all quarterbacks that you feel like, you got to rank them, but if you, let's say you rank after Lawrence, you rank Fields number 2, and you're sitting there at number 7 and Fields is available, it's a possibility. Well, then, you got to pull the trigger on Fields. So if the question is, do they have to go defense? Absolutely not. I think whoever the new staff is, you got a chance. A lot of times you do go and look at the most important position and say quarterback. You use Stafford either as a bridge quarterback, or you can use him, as trade bait and put the price up there pretty high, like a first and second rounder, and say, hey, that's where we're at. But no, I think that DeVonta Smith, I could see the Lions selecting a wide receiver. I know in this town, you already mentioned it, the Matt Millen playbook, but the last wide receiver they took there in Calvin Johnson, it was a pretty good pick.
Yeah, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The key for me is who the Lions have that wide receiver on draft day in 2021, because obviously, the top 3 wide receivers on the team are Golladay, Jones, and Amendola, and then after that, they drafted Quintez Cephas on day 3 last year and didn't get much playing time this year. They signed Mohamed Sanu from the practice squad, and he got some playing time in the last month or two. But you look at the top 3 of Golladay, Jones, and Amendola, it's good but not great, and especially with Galladay's hip injury. If they all return, then you're not taking a wide receiver. You're not considering a wide receiver at number 7. If Golladay and one of the other wide receivers returns, then you're not taking one either. But if Golladay returns and the other two leave, then you have to figure, well, what are they doing in free agency? If they sign Juju Smith-Schuster or some other good free agent, you're not taking a wideout. But if your number 1 and 2 receivers are Quintez Cephas and Mohamed Sanu, then you don't have to take Waddle or Smith or Chase, but you should definitely consider it, because suddenly the Lions would go in terms of wide receiver from a strength to a weakness if they lose all three of those guys.
Yeah, Mohamed Sanu, I'm not pinning anything and hoping for anything from him.
He's not the next Herman Moore.
No, he's lucky if he makes any team. Cephas right at the end of the year, I mean, he showed some flashes there, but you can't count on him I don't think to be a number 2 either. Mm-mm. But in a 3-man rotation, I think you could look at him as the third. We're already getting a lot of feedback on this right here, and you should, whether you're watching on Facebook right now, you can go ahead and leave a message there, and we will read it during the show. That's what we do here. Paul has already left a message here. Paul, I'm guessing it's going to be about hockey before I even see it here with Paul. We need a pass rusher, Paul says. He went off character here. He says we need a pass rusher. He's also saying pass on Wentz. He's already getting to the second chapter there. But that's how you do it on Facebook, like Paul W. is doing. YouTube chat is rolling here. Brian Jelinek is ready to go. He's intern. Chapman, you didn't scare him away. He's back for show number 2.
Yeah, we'll see how long he lasts.
That's a good sign that he's here for show number 2. Sideshow Raj. He's a original. What would we call it? Original TFC. Original Fifth Chapter.
Yeah,
he says. What's good, fellas? Hope all is good. He says, I like Zach Wilson at 7. If he's not there, I'm fine with DeVonta Smith.
Well, and it's one thing that continues to surprise me is people not being all that infatuated with Justin Fields. And I think that if you're a Lions fan who wants Fields, yesterday he had the perfect game because he was just okay. And, he's still dealing with the injury. I think that he's still arguably the best player in the draft, but he didn't have a lights-out game. And that's going to cause some teams to say, well, let's pass on him. And I saw a Pro Football Focus mock draft earlier today that had Zach Wilson, or not a mock draft, it was a big board. It had Trevor Lawrence number 1 on the big board, Zach Wilson number 2, and Justin Fields number 3. So if you get a team like the Jets who's either infatuated with Zach Wilson at number 2, or they get infatuated with DeVonta Smith saying that Sam Darnold needs some weapons, or Jamar Chase, or somebody else, or they said Darnold needs some help on the offensive line. Let's take Penei Sewell. All of a sudden, Fields starts dropping. He's not going to go number 3 to the Dolphins. That could be an opportunity to trade up, or for him to fall even further.
Yeah, you know what? I think he could fall. Like Todd McShay, you can tell that he's down on him when you look at his mock drafts and everything that's going on there. I still think he'll be the second quarterback picked, and probably the second player picked. But, he could fall there to the Lions. The one thing about DeVonta Smith is so interesting. If Waddle doesn't get hurt, does DeVonta Smith even happen? He's just out there. I mean, he was good last year, but certainly not Heisman Trophy and being talked about as the best college wide receiver ever, there. But I know during the game last night when LeBron James tweeted that he thought he was a combination of Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, the great Colt wide receivers. It's like you're thinking, man, if you get a Reggie Wayne, you get a Marvin Harrison. To me, it reminds me of a combination of DeAndre Hopkins and a guy that wasn't great in the NFL, really great in college, but has the body style, a guy named Steve Breston. He reminds me a little bit of a combination of those two. But I've never seen a football player be able to control his body and be able to keep and get as many passes, catches with toe taps, inbounds as DeVonta Smith. He's incredible that way. And this is you've got a couple impact guys. Waddle with the speed, I'm not ready for him at 7, but Chase and Smith, I am. Speaking of a Smith, we've got another one. It's on the chat. It's Roger, who says, do you guys think the Lions should pursue Nick Saban?
They can try to pursue him, but why would Nick Saban want to go from the top of the top to the bottom of the bottom and perhaps take a pay cut? It's not happening.
Well, he wouldn't be taking a pay cut, that's for sure. If Nick Saban at 69 years old decided that, he's past Bear Bryant, with 7 championship rings, and he wants to go back and do something that he wasn't able to do the first time around, and that was go to the pros and have success. He would be going for something like a John Gruden deal. The Lions would have to say, hey, here's 10 years, out of 10 years.
That's what he should ask for.
5 years and $75 million.
Yeah, that's what he should ask for. But there's no way that a team should pay him, given his prior experience as an NFL coach. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't pay a Nick. I think Nick Saban, he's perfect for college football. It's like
Correct.
Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo's looked at the NBA a few times, and John Beilein did it. John Beilein had no business going to the NBA. He's best suited as a teacher in college. Tom Izzo's, screaming at the ref, getting up in his player's face. That's good for college basketball. He's a great college basketball coach, not a good NBA coach.
Yep.
I don't think so for Nick Saban. I did see who was it today? Who was going after? Somebody was ready to make the jump into college. It might have been the Eagles. We're starting to take a look and saying, hey, what's going on?
Well, I know
Lincoln Riley, I think.
Oh, okay. He's looking at NFL jobs.
I think the Eagles were making overtures and saying that's who they wanted. Okay. So maybe that's it.
Yeah,
we're talking about college guys. So I think that Dabo Swinney also seems like he's very a college coach, but I could see from the Dabo Swinney side, maybe not this year, but soon, I could see Dabo Swinney saying, "Hey, give me this 75 5-year deal."
If he's leaving, he's going to Bama.
Well, yeah, and here's the
because
way to
he's
do
a
it,
Bama
though.
alum. He's not going to the NFL.
True. And you missed my exit strategy and then entrance strategy into Alabama. Nick Saban, I think he's going to turn 70 years old on Halloween next year. So is he going to coach till he's 75, 73, 74, 75? Next year, if you're Dabo Swinney, you take a $75 million job for 5 years, and you just wait for Nick Saban. When he retires, then you head back into Tuscaloosa. I mean, if it works in the NFL, great. Yeah. But if it doesn't,
because it'd be hard for him to go from Clemson straight to Alabama because fans would say, wait a second, we're a great team. You built something great here. But if he goes to the NFL and then fails, so you can move there. But why would he want to go somewhere to fail? And if he's going somewhere and succeeds, he wouldn't want to leave, you would assume.
Well, that's right. It's almost like the best of all worlds. You're taking your money in the NFL, and you get your shot to do something that nobody's been able to do. And that's go from college, and Harbaugh almost did, but then be able to go back to college and pick a great job like Alabama. It would be awesome for him. All right, Brian says the Lions have only one path at 7: draft a quarterback. He's saying. I think the general manager might be saying the same thing. It lines up that way, Brian. Sideshow says, wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles took Smith, one pick before him at 6. They definitely need a wide receiver. Let's see. Robert Saleh is the right move for the next coach. It just makes the most sense. That's from Raj as well. What about Saleh here? Saleh is one.
He's going. He's taking his second interview with the Jets today, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't want to be a same old line. Like I know folks have been saying, it would be great to have him come back and come home, and he knows what it's all about to be a line. He wants to turn him around. And Saleh's probably thinking, I've been to the Super Bowl. I've been in playoff races, and I grew up as a Lions fan. I don't want any part of that. I know that's where coaches go to die. So let me go take if he can get the Jets job and he can have the number 2 pick in the draft, yeah, you're going to take that over being the same old Lion. And all these reports.
The Jets job is more attractive. Let's be honest. The Chargers job is probably plum because
Herbert.
They're sitting there right, and so.
But you're in the same division as Mahomes.
You are, but I can see Bieniemy taking that job. Jacksonville looks like Urban Meyer, Bieniemy. The third most attractive jobs out of the 6, I guess 7 now that the Eagles are open. It is the Jets, not because it's the same old Jets, but because what you mentioned, number 2 overall pick, and they got a ton of cap space, only behind Jacksonville. That's why those 2 spots you can go in and have such a great, easy turnaround. Trevor Lawrence.
Lions have hardly any cap space.
Right, I was looking today, $11 million, and they got a lot of people to sign. and the number 7 overall pick. The Lions on that list there. I don't know. You put the Lions in front of the Eagles. I know the Eagles just went to the Super Bowl, but with the Wentz and Hurts situation, kind of looking at it, I don't know how many people are.
That's not a good situation, and the Lions situation isn't good either. But the Eagles are picking 6th, right? So if they want to draft a quarterback, they'll have dibs over the Lions. If they want to draft up to get to take the number 3 pick, they'll have to give up less in order to do so.
No, you're right about that. All right, let's keep it moving here. Although Vlad says for anyone entertaining the thought of Saban, he says going back to the pros. Remember how he bailed on the Dolphins?
He's
That's
not
right.
Coming to the pros.
Well, we'll stay with the pros here, and we get to Chapter 2.
That's right.
And the Lions, that pursuit of a new GM and a coach, they'll have a decision to make with Matt Stafford, as we talked about. Chapman, everybody else out there, I'm going to give you 4 options. You tell me which one you would go with and rank them. First option, trade for Deshaun Watson. Second option, trade for the aforementioned Carson Wentz. At number 3, the option for you out there, go with best available quarterback. Went through some of them, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Whoever would be there at 7, take the best available. That's the third option for you. Number 4, keep Stafford. Rank those.
Okay, I'll go with the bottom and start with the bottom. Number 4 would be to trade for Carson Wentz. I want no part of him. He was replaced by journeyman Nick Foles, replaced by a second-round pick rookie. He's coming off of a terrible year. He's a bad teammate who's always jealous and whining about playing time. He just got his Super Bowl champion coach fired, or likely played a role into that. And he's got an enormous contract that's about to kick in. So I want no part of that. That's number 4. Number 3, and I went back and forth between who I was going to have at number 3 and number 2. So this is very close. But 3 would be keep Stafford. That would be just treading water, hoping he doesn't fall apart with more injuries and force him to miss games. And you're the big contract and all that, you're never going to go far with him. Number 2 would be to trade for Deshaun Watson. He's a Pro Bowl quarterback in the early part of his prime. He will deplete your draft picks if you want to acquire him, but you'll also have to trade Stafford away in order to get him, so at least you'll get some picks back in that trade. And if you trade Stafford first, then you'll have you'll probably get more value than if you trade Stafford afterwards, in which case everyone knows you have to just get rid of Stafford. But you can build through the draft beginning in 2022 after you traded away all your picks in 2021 just to get him, and you'll have your star in place. And then the top choice would be to go with drafting a quarterback. A lot of people are getting stupid. They don't think that Justin Fields is very good when he's arguably the best player in the draft. He's better than Zach Wilson. He could fall. If he falls to 7, don't sit there and say, well, everybody else thinks he's no good, so I'm not going to take him either. I would take Justin Fields. If not, then Zach Wilson, I think, could be a decent backup prize, or whatever you want to call it, at number 7 as well. I haven't seen Trey Lance play, and he's only played 1 game in 2020. But my top choice would be to draft a quarterback at number 7.
Yeah, I'm somewhat with you there. I think those options of trading for Deshaun Watson and trading for Carson Wentz. I don't want Carson Wentz, and Stafford. If you get rid of him, it's going to cost you $19 million, and then you got to pay the new quarterback. It's suddenly it seems like you're paying $55-60 million for the position on a team that I don't know is
for 1
Carson.
year.
Right, you feel like Carson Wentz is going to take you somewhere. Deshaun Watson, could, but again, Deshaun Watson has a no trade clause there, and he wants to go to Miami. I can't see Deshaun Watson could list all 32 teams. He wouldn't pick the Texans because that's where he's leaving. I think Detroit would be the 31st team there, right behind the Texans. I don't know why he would want to go and play in Detroit. I mean, maybe you can make a case for the Lions and go after Dabo Sweeney or something. But yeah, I don't think either of those. The Wentz one absolutely shouldn't happen. Watson, I don't see any way that it could. I do think number 1 is taking the best available quarterback at 7. I also would marry it up with 4 though, because I think that the Lions would keep Stafford. Let's say it's just Justin Fields. They pick Justin Fields to have Matt Stafford. You have your bridge quarterback. And then you have Fields. You start the season with Matt Stafford and see how that goes. If it goes south quickly, you put Fields up, get him out there, and see how it goes. Now, caveat to that is that if somebody wants to give a first and second rounder up, say Phillip Rivers retires, number of other teams out there, looking for a QB, maybe the Eagles, and they want to give up a first and second rounder, maybe the Texans, although they don't have a first rounder, or maybe a second rounder. I would trade Stafford for a first and second rounder.
I'm not keeping Matt Stafford around if I'm drafting a quarterback in the top 10. I don't need a bridge. I'm giving the ball straight to Justin Fields or to Trey Lance or to Zach Wilson and saying go. You look at what the Chargers did. After one game and a punctured lung, they took out whoever their starting quarterback was, and they put in Justin Herbert and let him roll. Yeah, exactly. They didn't say we're going to keep Tyrod Taylor in there. The Lions need to just flat out move on and see what they've got with the new quarterback. And I wouldn't need a first or second round pick, first and second. The Lions aren't going to get a first and second round pick because people around the NFL, I would assume, are not stupid enough to say, oh, look, no playoff wins, average quarterback, 1.5 Pro Bowl appearances, and he's busted down with all these injuries. Let's just give out all these draft picks for Matthew Stafford. It's not going to happen.
Well,
you have to accept less.
I think that there's two things to like. There might be some people that are thinking exactly that, but
then take the deal.
Carson Palmer, the Bengals were able to get a first and second rounder at the same age for Carson Palmer.
Well, then take the deal.
What? He was coming off a knee injury. And, the other part, there might be teams that look at Matt Stafford like, you know what? This guy's playing for the worst organization in pro football. Never able to put anything around him. Just the change of scenery. You can take a guy that's right around, you say average quarterback. Sometimes it seems like he's an average quarterback. Sometimes he seems like he's a top 10, even close to top 5. It's been a little bit for that. But there's teams out there that are always looking, thinking, you know what? This could be a guy.
I'm not saying turn that deal down. I'm just saying that don't.
I'm saying I think that there might be a team that would give a first or second rounder.
Well, then lure that sucker in and say, give me the first and second.
Yeah, but I'm not. You're making it sound like no matter what, let's just cut bait. You take a third rounder to get rid of Stafford, and then whoever there's at 7, just throw him in. I want more, and I'm prepared to come back and have Stafford be the quarterback and have that quarterback sit.
Well, look,
maybe all season.
That's like if I'm playing the Mega Millions, it's what, $600 million right now? If I get all the numbers right except for the Mega Millions, that's $1 million. I'll take that, but if I can get the extra one right and I can get the $600 million, I'll take that too. I'm just saying that the Lions should not have to sit there and be greedy. If they're being offered $1 million, then take that. Yeah, I think it's greedy to say, oh, we're going to stand pat unless we get a first and a second or a first and a third. Well, I would not trade a first round pick for Stafford.
You have to put the line somewhere, and I think having a first round pick is the way to go. Remember, Aaron Rodgers, how many years did he sit? It was a while ago,
3.
but he sat behind. That's a long time. I don't advocate that, but can you sit down half the season until Stafford gets hurt or the team implodes? Yeah. All right, feedback. Keith on the feedback saying, take the highest rated wide receiver. Such a Lion thing to do. It sounds like he likes the idea of taking DeVonta Smith. Hopefully the next GM will finally know football and how to build a team, but I have no faith they will hire the right GM. They never have. Bunch of exclamation points. Hard to argue with that one.
I agree 100% with that.
Raj saying more draft capital would be nice for Stafford, but your best chance at winning next season is keeping him as your bridge.
Okay, look, the goal should not be how can we win next season. It should be how can we win long term. It's not about we have to get to the playoffs next year, and then the year after that we have to get to the playoffs next year. There has to be a long-term plan.
Well, I disagree. I think you can do both. I think you can have a long-term plan, and you can try to win next year.
You can, but don't ruin the long-term plan by going all in to make the playoffs this year. If you go 5-11, but you have a better shot of going 11-5 in 2022, then go 5-11.
Know the value for the quarterback. Don't just give him away for a song and dance because you just want him out of town. All right, let's go to, unless you want to get a final word in on that, we can get to chapter 3.
No, we can turn the page to the third chapter. And in the third chapter, that takes us to the NFL and not to the games but one specific broadcast, Nickelodeon's broadcast of the Saints and the Bears. And if you decided to watch the game on CBS instead of Nickelodeon, then you missed some things. Like, for instance, you missed Noah Eagle doing play-by-play with former Lions wide receiver Nate Burleson doing color commentary, and Gabrielle Nevea-Green. I never heard of her before, but she's a 15-year-old star of Nickelodeon's All That and Nickelodeon's Unfiltered. And so if you didn't see the game on Nickelodeon, where I chose to watch the game, you missed some moments like this.
Number 41 is back in, and he is as dangerous as they come, but some movement up front, and this could be Akeem Hicks again. If not, it'll go up against the Saints.
False start.
And it is.
Offense number 51. 5-yard penalty. It remains third down.
A false start. That's when an offensive player illegally moves after lining up for, but prior to, the snap. Like when my dad starts shoveling in dinner before mom says grace.
Thank you. Yes. Young Sheldon coming clutch.
Seriously, where are you going to get that other than Nickelodeon? That was the coolest thing ever.
We're going to have to say when he scores a touchdown today, Breeze over the middle. It's Thomas. He dances his way into the end zone. New Orleans is on the board first.
There we go with the slide cannons. Hey, that is epic.
Yeah, it was epic, and it's something you would never see on CBS or ESPN or some of those other TV stations where you typically get an NFL broadcast. This was a broadcast that was geared toward children and helping them to learn the ins and outs of football. But of course, when you've got grown men on the football field, sometimes you hear some words that you're not accustomed to hearing on Nickelodeon. Here's an example when Gabrielle Nevea-Green was finishing up her impersonation of Cardi B.
All right.
Did you miss that?
All right.
Yeah. That actually went on live TV. Cordarrelle Patterson saying, "What the F?" on Nickelodeon, which I have to imagine was the first time in Nickelodeon history that particular four-letter word was ever used on that station. Dennis, what did you think overall of Nickelodeon's coverage of the NFL playoffs?
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea. I didn't watch any of it, but during the game on Twitter, the Kamara touchdown where you had the slime cannons in the end zone, I saw that. And the young lady, I thought, had the best line there. "Here we go with the slime cannons. That is epic." I just loved it. You know, I loved her call there. I saw another still shot of somebody that was a Bears fan, and the Bears kicker Santos was lining up for a kick, and they had SpongeBob, in between the goalposts. Mm-hmm. And the guy's comment was, "Man, if they mess this up, I'm going to be so ticked off." Like you see old SpongeBob out there. Yeah, I mean, a great idea. Attracting young viewers. Twitter was lighting up, enjoying it even more than Romo and Nance. And, it sounded like a gigantic hit without the F-bomb.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And speaking of SpongeBob, the first time they showed SpongeBob, and you can actually see right there what SpongeBob looked like because they put SpongeBob between the uprights. It was crazy because the first time they kicked the field goal during the game, they put SpongeBob up right at the last second, and it almost seemed like it spooked the kicker because he missed the field goal. And then the Bears came back and they attempted a field goal. They got SpongeBob up there early, and it didn't spook the kicker, and he made it. But it was amazing to see the way that they were able to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but they were able to simplify the game to make it more palatable for children. You saw Mitch Trubisky, I think it was, get a little bit banged up early on in the game, and Nate Burleson said it's kind of like scraping your knee at recess. You had, the Gabrielle Nevea-Green brought absolutely nothing to the broadcast if you just like football, and I mean, but she's a Disney star, so that's why they brought her in. But like the first time that they punted the football, her analysis was, "Oh, all the way up in the air." Now, for me and you, that's kind of stupid. But if you're a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old watching football for the first time, that might be your reaction. Or when Noah Eagle mentioned that one of the offensive linemen was 352 pounds, she said, "What? That's nuts! That's crazy!" Like, they had all these references to SpongeBob that I didn't get, but I'm sure a lot of kids and their parents who watch these shows with their kids got. You had Nate Burleson talking about how he wanted to be Tommy Pickles when he grows up because I want to walk around in my diaper just doing whatever. And, you had Mitchell Trubisky getting the MVP trophy, the Nickelodeon Valuable Player trophy, even though he didn't play well and the team lost. So it was, I thought it was fun. And, to be honest, I would love to see Nickelodeon and Disney, because let's not forget Disney owns ESPN and ABC. I would like to see them do this on more NFL broadcasts and baseball and basketball and hockey. I think it'd be a great thing to see, on a Sunday when the NBA is doing their ABC broadcast, have an alternate broadcast on Disney with Mulan or The Lion King or some of those characters. You could have people talk about how baseball fans are dying and the average age is 72 or whatever. If you have Nickelodeon broadcast Yankees versus Red Sox, then all of a sudden 7-year-olds across the country would become Aaron Judge fans. I think that would be an awesome idea to use in all sports.
Yeah, if they ever have exhibition games again in the NFL, I hope not. I wouldn't mind seeing what it would look like, with the netting that they raise up for the kicks, actually having, SpongeBob. I don't know if that would throw off the kickers or not. I mean, I know they maybe it would. I don't know, but I think that would be pretty cool. In the exhibitions, to put it out there.
Like what they do with the All-State Hands in college football?
Right. Exactly. Have this gigantic SpongeBob. I still couldn't get over that. The one thing I found out is that my daughter really, when she was young, didn't watch a heck of a lot of Nickelodeon. But my stepson, who I had to get up when he was 7 years old to take to school, I had a really hard time getting him up. And I'd go in there and say, "Hey, time to get up." Nothing. I'd go over a little. "Time to get up." Nothing. So I don't know what it was. Like, SpongeBob would come on at 7:30, and I started putting it on in his room. Mm-hmm. And then I would turn it up a little bit, and then I would turn it up a little bit more. And what I found, I'd go in there, and I'd heard him giggling. Like, he woke up. Like, so SpongeBob, man, I have a great affinity for. He helped me out back in the day. And, then I would,
The third parent in the Fithian household, SpongeBob.
Well, and then I would turn it on, and I would sit there and say, yeah, like SpongeBob. But I would end up watching it myself. So I know SpongeBob's great, but not the rest. I wasn't very familiar with the rest of the Nickelodeon shows. All right, let's go through some of the feedback on this. 54 Ray says Sean Payton did get slimed. He did, and I wouldn't mind to have that real option one day. Ray, I wouldn't mind it sliming Matt Patricia.
Well, but the thing is, you slime someone when they do a good job. Matt Patricia would never get slimed.
Oh, I thought you slimed somebody when they did things bad. I know they had the cannons and it was epic in this one, but I thought you slimed someone.
They scored touchdowns and slimed them. It's an honor.
Keith says, I want to type something off topic. Blake Griffin looks hurt, and he's untradeable at this time. What happened? He looked healthier in the preseason. He looks like a shell of himself. Yeah, I don't know. He's just having a rough go and mixing it in with the other guys.
The Pistons are not going to trade him, and they're not going to trade Derrick Rose because of injury issues. Derrick Rose, I think, missed the last game because of knee soreness. So in terms of building draft capital through one of those two, not going to happen.
Reed says it helped considering the game was a snooze fest. Brian says, he's telling us coming up in the third chapter. What's happening? I like that. Good work, Brian, there. And one other one here, baseball. It is from Brian. It says baseball desperately needs something like the Nickelodeon broadcast. Good point here from Raj. Says, we watch the Nickelodeon Lions for 16 weeks every football season. The slime is the dumpster juice they leave on the field.
The Lions deserve Nickelodeon.
You can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's turn the page to the fourth chapter.
Well, that gets us to something that everybody's excited about, and that is the college football. Not the natty last night, but it happens after a year after the Natty, they put out a college football way too early top 25. Brian, if you could put it up there, let's take a look and see where they got Michigan.
Yeah, I was going to do that, and then somehow, some way, I just couldn't find them. I couldn't find Michigan, couldn't find Michigan State, even though Michigan is always overrated in the top 10. They weren't in the top 25 at all. Nowhere.
Well, that's what happens when you just post 2 wins. So, yeah, they're not going to be in the way too early. We don't have to worry about people saying
there's Michigan right there. You see them? They're right there. Oh, sorry. It's basically a blank screen. Nope, no Michigan. And no Michigan State.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I went through the schedule today. 7-5, 8-4 seems like the would be a good season for Michigan. So there it is.
Well, and I think that's basically what ESPN is projecting. They're projecting at least a 4-loss season, because if you have a 3-loss season, then you're going to be in the top 25. But if you have 4 or more losses, if you have 4 losses, then you're right on the border of being a top 25 team. But if you have 5 losses, you're just, and particularly in your first 12 games, then you're not going to be a top 25 team, period. What I think is also interesting about Michigan not being ranked there is usually Michigan is not just there because of their name, but they're overrated, and they just signed Jim Harbaugh to a 4-year contract extension. They did give him a pay cut, but you would think that with Michigan's high expectations and all that stuff that you're going to reward someone with a 4-year contract extension, because everybody around the country is thinking Michigan is rolling right now. In a bad year, they're number 15. But no, that didn't even get mentioned. Not even 24, 25. Just not there.
Well, they're going to have to do something that they haven't done in a while. They're going to have to show it on the field to get the respect.
Yeah, I also was thinking about this earlier today. They announced the contract extension on Friday, and everyone was waiting. When are they going to announce it? When are they going to announce it? It was 2 days after the insurrection. So you know how you ever heard about the term burying the lead? Well, the lead on Friday across the country was not about what Michigan football is doing. And 2 days after the insurrection, hey, by the way, Jim Harbaugh's back for 4 more years. By the way, oh, look, insurrection. President Trump might get impeached. Look over there. I think there was some of that to the announcement.
Yeah, maybe. Friday news dump.
Yes,
yes. They've talked about that before as well.
Yes.
Yeah, there were more people that were this way about it than were, excited.
You've said multiple times over the last couple of months that there are some Michigan fans, some old blues that want Harbaugh back, and I can tell you that whether it's speaking to people on text message or calling them or on Twitter, I have not found a single Michigan fan who is pleased, much less thrilled with the contract extension. Not one.
Yeah, well, they call into an Ann Arbor station. Tune in WTKA 3 to 6 weekdays, and you'll hear Michigan fans.
Are they his family members?
No, but there are like some former players, and look at
not Brian Greasy.
There are people that are buying into the part of Mark D'Antonio. Had a bad season, bounce back, 10-win season. Brian Kelly, Notre Dame. Same thing, bounce back. Those are 2 of their biggest rivals. I think the other thing, this is where he comes in, don't shoot the messenger. I would have moved on. I would have gone out, and I would have, hired somebody else. I think the time is over. So I'm just telling you what people are saying. They're also saying that, that there's not somebody, that's not a good excuse, but also it's like, there's not really somebody out there that, is really ringing the bell that they thought. Plus, they work in the pandemic. Plus, they work in that it was a
so they've got a scroll of excuses, and they're just reading through.
Well, you call them excuses, and the other part is that it's essentially, even though it's a 4-year extension on top of the next year because of the buyout, it becomes way easier to move on after next year. And the other part is, the pandemic there. Everybody uses when you want to just kind of throw something out. Anything that you want to do that's kind of different than everything else, just throw the pandemic on it. You're able to do it. You want to trim some things down with your company, even though it's going good. Pandemic. You got a great company that's doing something. Say pandemic. It works. And some of it is real. I mean, I'm not saying that, but also people use it to benefit themselves as well.
And I don't think
All
anybody had the Spartans anywhere close to the top 25 this year.
Jim Clark, Joey B, Steve, people that watch on Facebook, you can comment in. We can also read your feedback on Facebook. But people that really like to comment usually just fill up YouTube. All right, that'll do it for the fourth chapter, Brian.
All right, now let's turn the page to the fifth chapter where we get to the major wager. We give you some things to bet on. By the way, before we give you our recent picks and tell you what's coming next, I did see a report on Twitter earlier today that in the next coming days, mobile betting will finally be legalized in Michigan. Ooh. You can bet just like this if you're in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, that's gonna be weird. That's gonna be, I don't say weird. It's gonna be different.
All right, Dennis.
I see. I was just gonna say to that point. Somebody, Martin Weiss, used to work with us, who works out in California. I just saw him yesterday. He posted something like, "Hey, it's been a pretty nice month. I've been eating good," and he rolled out what his all of his bets were for the last month. And he had you could see it was a green light if he hit, and then red, and then he had 20 bets out there. It looked like he had 15 or 16 green lights.
There
Said he
you
was
go.
eating good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would be. I don't know about eating good, but I'd be eating because I came out and I told everybody to take all the dogs in wild card weekend and then bet the money line on all of the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up, both of them, if you did that, out of the 6 games, 4 of the dogs won. And if you bet the money line, with the exception of what the Seahawks and the Rams, the Seahawks won, and the Seahawks and Steelers.
Yeah.
Those were the 2 favorites that did not come down. But I don't know, would you have made your money line, made some money going 4-2 if you'd have bet just the money line with those 2 losers? I don't know. But you would have won if you'd have just taken the dogs. You'd have gone 4-2.
For the point spread, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you looking at today?
You know what? I'm just going to look at Saturday's divisional games. And that Packer game right here, I think with David Bakhtiari, the left tackle for the Packers, being out for the playoffs here, and the Rams just don't have a good defense. They got a great defense. And I know they have to do some things offensively, and Goff's, thumb, and the cat that they had in there got wasted, and his
Walford.
Walford or whatever it was. So that doesn't look good for them. But I think that defense is. This is going to be another situation like last week. I like the Packers to win that game, but I like the Rams and the points. So I'll take the Rams and the 6.5 points, hoping that goes up to 7. And then I'm going to jump in another one. I'm going to take the Bills over the Ravens. Like with the Bills, they do get a little bit of crowd up there in Orchard Park. How many ever it is of the Bills Mafia that they let in there.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear them. It was weird watching the game. It was like, whoa, there's a little crowd noise. They got it. I don't know how much of a factor that's going to be, but it's nice to have. And I'm going to take the Bills to move on over the Ravens, and I'll lay the 2 points. So Bills and Rams in Saturday's games. Way I'm going.
Yeah, I picked the Titans to win straight up, and I was feeling really good when they had that 10-0 lead, and then they fell apart. So it was a bad pick. Never trust a Buckeye, and what is Mike Vrabel? A Buckeye. So I'm going to go.
Arthur Smith, I should say, who's the offensive coordinator there, and wouldn't go for it when they were moved over the 50-yard line. If I was a team, Lions, looking for a head coach, I'd be like, I don't know, Arthur Smith.
I know he had a terrible game, but give the ball to your 2,000-yard running back in that situation. I'm going to go to the NBA tonight. The Nets don't have Kyrie Irving because he's being Kyrie Irving. They're a 1-point home favorite against the Nuggets. So I'm going to take the Nuggets and the point.
That's it, straight up.
That's it. Take
With
the
the
Nuggets
point?
and the 1 point. So if they lose on a buzzer beater by 1 point, you get a push.
All right, that sounds like a good bet to me. Maybe I'll if betting was legal, like it will be. What time? Next week at this time?
They're saying in the next few days, I guess. So perhaps by the next time we get on, perhaps by Thursday's show, we'll have it.
Yeah, maybe I'll start I'm going to place the bet right now here on the 5th chapter.
I've already downloaded, let me see, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different apps on my phone because so many of them are giving out free money. So I want as much free money as I can to bet. That's going to be my stimulus package.
Free money, Brian taking his stimulus package and on the major wager. Good luck with all that. All right, well, coming up on Thursday's show, we'll look more at those divisional games, and we'll try to figure out what the Lions, out of all of the hundreds of people that are interviewed, we'll try to narrow it down to 3 or 4 favorites on the GM and coach side. We'll take a look at that on Thursday's show. Thanks for watching, listening, all of those things, subscribing. If you're out there, you're somebody that likes I guess no, if you like it, leave one of those comments out there. That really the 5th chapter.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the 5th chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the 5th chapter. Huh. Huh.